Here we go.
Hey, my name is Teryn Young, and I have been date raped 13 times. True story. It was by 13 different men. And I guess I'll give you a backstory of myself.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself as far as your upbringing, where you're from, because this is in Dallas, Texas. But just tell us a quick little backstory about yourself.
Okay, so yeah, I was born and raised in Dallas, mainly like Garland, Dallas. I am Mexican, Black, a Native American. My parents are super Christian, strict household. I really wasn't allowed to do anything until after I was like 18. I got in like a 4-year relationship and then got in like a 2-year relationship. And that kind of brings us to where everything kind of started, because my whole life have been like sheltered, kept in. We didn't really go out. I didn't really drink much. I didn't like alcohol back then. And then I got in a 2-year relationship, and I ended that in like November of 2021. And that relationship literally drove me insane. He was like gaslighting, manipulating, narcissistic characteristics, cheating on me with women and men. I was being a stepmom, dealing with the baby mama. My mind was literally just not there. And
what made you stay in that relationship with all that going on?
So I had been literally knowing that person since 5th grade, on and off dating, best friends with. We had a lot of history. And again, he was gaslighting me. So any type of information that I would find, he would literally be like, no, it's not me. That's not the case, da da da. And I was just so, I guess, brainwashed, in love, whatever, that I just would believe him. And then finally we broke up, and I got the proof that I needed, and I like left the situation. But my mind going into, again, November of 2021 after that, was basically like, yeah, I was just used, manipulated, gaslighted, like all of the worst things that somebody could probably go through, like I was dealing with. And again, I was not really in the mix of the world, nightlife, anything like that, nor was I really into drinking. So I started getting into drinking, started getting into going out, and was basically just doing anything to distract myself, anything to just get over the past shit that I was dealing with, not think about it. It was just too much for me. Like, I wanted to take my life. He knew that. He didn't care. I literally had to get out of that like situation. And if I didn't have my mom and my siblings, I wouldn't have. They are literally the reason that I did not take my life. So I was literally at that time, the lowest part of my life. And so going into the world and being around everybody, people literally used to call me green. And I didn't really understand the aspect or like definition of that. And now looking back on it and then just hearing what they would say, I'd be like, well, yeah, like I am gullible. I don't think people would, fuck me over or do this and that. I was fucked over, taken advantage of, almost anything you could think of within that time period, because I was, again, just so new to the world. And I was kind of just sleeping around. I didn't care. I very much loved sex. I was very much a party girl. Like, that was just kind of my lifestyle. And it didn't like register that I had been taken advantage of until December 2nd, 2022, I had met up with this promoter that had wanted to like hang out with me, get to know me, whatever, at the club. I had basically told him I wasn't interested, and he was like, no, I'm a promoter, like just come out with me and promote and stuff like that. So I gave him my information. He ended up inviting me over the day before this happened, and I was like, no, like I don't want to hang out with you alone. If we hang out, it's going to be with other people and out and about. So then he had proceeded to tell me that him and some other promoters were going to get together, and how he worded it was, we're going to pregame here at my place and then we're going to go out. So I'm thinking we is a group, you and your promoters, and you're inviting me to that. That was not the case. I showed up and then realized it was just me and him. A lot of people in the comments have been like, well, if you notice these red flags, why did you stay? At the time, it wasn't anything that I was just overthinking. And not saying that I shouldn't have been, but again, y'all have to understand my mindset. I wasn't in a place to even overthink that because I had so much on my mind. There was no room for overthinking, for no putting like stuff past somebody. Like I'm literally projecting so much that I wouldn't do these things, so nobody else would do these things. And I'm in good hands for whatever reason at the time. Now, looking back on it, I can be like, okay, like, yeah, I should have left and all that. But even with saying that, there's so many situations where girls turn down men, reject men, try to leave situations, and they're assaulted, hurt, kidnapped, killed. Like, there is no right way to reject a man nowadays, because you can reject them now and then them hurt you then, or you can give them your information, meet up with them so that you're not rejecting them then for your safety, and then your safety is then jeopardized if you do meet up with them, give them their information. Like, there is no win with a man approaching you. You literally have to walk on the thinnest of ice, and that's terrifying.
When you're speaking of that promoter, how did you meet him, and what do you feel his intentions were upon meeting him?
Oh, he definitely wanted to fuck with me. He definitely wanted to, like, he was not on the terms of coming out and promoting with me. He was more so of, I think you're attractive. I want to get to know you. What's your information? I told him I was good. I had met him out at a club called Bitter End. It could still be that name, but that's where I met him. And I was like, no, like, I'm good. And he was like, well, like, hold on. Like, I'm a promoter. Like, you can, like, come out and promote with me and stuff like that. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, sure. Like, I was getting introduced to the nightlife promoters and stuff like that. So I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, a promoter wants me to come out with him. Like, that's kind of like cool to me. Like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to get promoted. I'm going to be able to go out, have my girls come with me, whoever, get in for free, get free drinks. Like, like, I was a part of the nightlife. So that's cool to me for nothing, in my head, for nothing. And so then, so he invited me over. I realized nobody was there. I immediately addressed that, hey, I told you, I didn't want to be alone with you. Like, basically, what the fuck? Like, why is nobody here? And he was like, oh no, it was a misunderstanding. Like, when I said we, I meant me and you. So it's just going to be me and you until we go out. And then he proceeded to go on with being he was still getting ready and, he was okay. And I got dropped off there. A lot of people are like, well, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you Uber back home and all that stuff? You have to understand where my mind was. I'm not thinking that something like this would have ever happened to me. I'm very much one of those people that be like, that will never happen to me. And that's a horrible mindset to have. But I just do like that for whatever reason. That's just my mindset. And so that was very, very much my mindset then. And so I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay, I addressed it. It won't happen again. He wants to go up in his room and pregame and finish getting ready, whatever. I remember us playing some type of we played at least 2 games. And I remember the last game we played was some type of Bop It Glow game. And then the last thing I remember is literally waking or trying to wake up, almost when you're so tired, your eyes can barely open and they close and stuff like that, to him literally trying to put his dick in my mouth. And I remember his hand, his thumb trying to pull my mouth open. And it almost seemed like he realized I was coming to. So he walked away. And then he got a phone call saying, I guess, where are you at? I couldn't hear the other end of the phone call, but from his answers, that's just what I'm putting together. We'll be there. We're about to be on their way. We'll be there at 11. I got to his house from the videos around 7 something. So the fact that it was going to be 11 by the time we got there, I don't know at what point I passed out or any of that. And then I just remember coming to you with that, asking him. I cannot tell you what exactly he told me happened or how it led up to us having sex, but I know he told me that we had sex and stuff like that. And after that whole night, after getting home and all that stuff, I was just so bothered because that was somebody that I would never have slept with, had no interest in sleeping with, had already specified more than once I wasn't interested in you in any way, shape, or form, especially sexually. And it just seemed I don't remember, so I don't know. And I had brought it up to a therapist and was like, I don't even know what we were talking about. That wasn't even the topic of discussion, but I brought it up and they're like, oh, well, yeah, you feel some type of way because you were date raped. That person date raped you at the point that you weren't able to remember and you have no recollection of it. And all of that, you were too out of it to ever give consent to that person. And that's why you feel some type of way. So I'm like, well, fuck, like, that kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, because that's all basically what it is. Like, I don't remember. I'm going based off of what you're telling me. And I had already told you I wasn't interested. And so I then went home, started thinking, looking back on it. And at the time, because I know my list has gotten brought up, I kept a list of everybody I had sex with because I was getting tested and wanted to know who I was having sex with, what happened. If anything, popped up in my, STD or whatever, I would basically know who did it. So I kept a list. And I'm also a very big video taker. So I would keep videos of when I would go out, who I would be around. That was kind of normally me. People would literally say that I was like the paparazzi because of how much I would take videos of everything. And luckily with me keeping that list and taking that videos and with her telling me all that, I was able to go back and be like, okay, well, that's happened way more than once. But the crazy thing is with every person that it happened with, nobody made it seem like it was a big deal. They all were so cavalier. Like it was just something that was like normal or like what they were used to, girls waking up and telling them like, wait, where am I? Like, wait, we had sex. Like, like, tell me what happened. How did we even get here? Like, they were so like, oh yeah, like it's nothing. Like, yeah, we left the club and you were fine. Like we had sex, you enjoyed it. Like it was never a big deal to them. And since I literally was ignorant to the situation, like many of the viewers, commenters are, I had no idea what date rape was. People hear the word rape and they run with it. They're like, oh, that person obviously drugged her. That person obviously forced her. It is date rape. It is so much deeper and so much different than that. Like it is a specific thing. And then there's things that fall underneath it. And so it's like, you literally have to look it up almost to know, because I wasn't taught it. And even talking to my mom about it, she was like, like I didn't know to bring it up to you. I didn't know to let you know what it was or what other things were, because I just didn't know to do that. And it's not saying it's on her or anybody else for me to have, for them to have told me what it was. But if I would have known, I would have better calculated. And the first time it happened, because I don't know who the first person was that it happened with, because a majority of those people were people that I was having sex with for a good amount of years, like on and off within the years. I've literally known most of them since high school. I graduated in 2015. I met these people my freshman year. Didn't have sex with them until after high school, a majority of them. But it was still like people who I grew with, I would be around. I literally lived with one of them, one of their moms and their grandma. And I love their mom and their grandma. And it was so hard for me to be like, okay, so most of these people on my list did it, but wait, did these people who I knew, grew up with, would hang around still to that moment, hang around like they did that to me? Like, do they know that they did that? Was that intentional? Was that unintentional? But it's like, regardless of that, it still happened to me. They still did it. If I were to hit somebody with my car and kill them, regardless if that's what I meant to do or not, that person is still dead. It doesn't matter your intentions. It matters what happens. And then again, this was to be a wake-up call. This was to be a bring awareness. If you didn't know what you did, if you didn't know that you were doing this, to the people that did it, to the people that I don't even know who are doing it or never met, it is to bring awareness to it. Like, hey, you need to reevaluate yourself. Are you doing this? Have you done this? Make sure you don't do this, because
no, please take your time.
I cannot tell you how it is just so indescribable, the feelings of like dealing, knowing, even if I didn't share with nobody, just knowing that those things happened to me, that it happened like so many times and all that stuff. Not sharing that would have been a lot to live with, but sharing it with my family, my loved ones, my partner, it is very much indescribable. And hearing, because, now I shared it with social media to bring awareness. I'm so sorry. It's honestly terrifying and disgusting and just the epitome of like sad to see the responses of a lot of people and their ignorance to the situation. But I try not to, hate or feel some type of way or be bothered, because it's like you're ignorant to something just like I was. If I didn't know about it and saw it, I would probably speak how y'all are speaking on it, like there's no to say thank you. There's no to say, against any of those things. Because you don't know about it. But it's difficult. I've literally gotten calls to my mother, calls to my job. It's affected me at work. I had to take a little bit over like a week off at work because I get triggers. I had a person that watches my page that was somewhat of a regular to my job come in and call me over to his table just to be like, hey, Miss Popular, hey, Miss Date Rape. And I can't tell you how that it's just indescribable. I literally had a panic attack, and a girl that I would never even really talk to at work. She's a bartender, super fine, super gorgeous. She's super cute. She was literally helping me through my panic attack. And it was so bad that I didn't even know for the longest who was helping me through it in the bathroom at my job, because it was so bad. Like, this has been horrible on my mental, emotional. It has been a strain on just me in general, to where my patience, my stuff like that has just taken a toll on me, to where I can't even have the amount of patience or just be, to me, somebody that people would want to be around, because it's like, I'm just not there enough to do that right now. A lot of this stuff I had put off because I didn't know what had happened to me. And when I found out, I was still working through all of that past stuff with that past relationship and what that did to me mentally, to where my brain was like, bitch, you can't handle this. We're putting this off to the side until you work through all of this. And now that I'm with the partner that I'm with, I have the support that I do, and I feel like my brain is finally like, okay, you're in a place to where you're safe. You can literally breathe. Like, we're now going to give you everything you were putting off that you need to work through, because even though you don't think you're going through it, your subconscious, your body is dealing with it, and you need to release it. You need to do something with it. And it was just on me. It's been on me for months. And then I was seeing so much stuff about sexual assault and just rape and just different stuff that has to do with that. And then Women's Month was coming up, and, it just passed. And now we're literally at the start of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I feel like a lot of people don't even know that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And it was just, I'm very spiritual. And for whatever reason, it was just really on me to finally release it. In my head, I thought I was ready. Oh my God, I thought I was ready to deal with it. And for whatever reason, I felt like it needed to come out. And I can't tell you the amount of women that have messaged me about the same men that are on my list, different men that I would be around that I didn't know, or just different situations. And I love hearing it. It's very nice to know that I'm helping advocate or just whatever to these women, to people who haven't even messaged me, all